Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
That was a huge change. Honestly, that's something important to talk about because those small realizations can really do something huge for you and your business. And I've had so many of them.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMade. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie from Serene Clean, and today's guest, Zalia Filler, is my buddy. We have been talking for, I don't even know, at least a year now. And I swear to God, you guys, Zalia is the next Stephanie from Serene Clean. I truly believe that because what you have accomplished in your young life and in your business while being like a mother is so inspirational to me. I think back to when I started my business, and you're, even younger than I was when I started. And to add like a child on it and to add being pregnant on it, because when you and I met, you were very pregnant or at least somewhat pregnant and still cleaning, hiring, like it's amazing. So Zalia, tell the people, where are you from? How long ago did you open your business? And I guess how did you come upon me? How did we connect?
Okay, so I am from Greensburg, Indiana. I service Fishers, Indiana. And I started about almost 3 years ago. We're around 2.5 years in service now. And I found Stephanie on YouTube through the best video I've ever come across cleaning wise. The information, it was so informative. I looked through so many, probably 30 videos, and Stephanie's was the first one that really connected with me, and I have her to thank for how far I've come, really, with all of the information that you've given me, so thank you.
Well, it's certainly the best information does not matter if you're not willing to work your ass off, and you are a hard worker, Missy. And how old are you now?
20.
So you started 3 years ago, right? Like 2 or 3 years ago? So literally like a fresh baby out of the womb, you started. And what made you start your cleaning business? Like what was the reason for that?
Honestly, a lot of things. I would say I knew that I wanted to start a business because I wanted to challenge myself. I wasn't doing too well with the whole working for little money and just that type of work. So I branched out kind of to see like what I could do, what are my skills, and then I started cleaning Airbnbs when I was 17, honestly to escape my home life. I had the owner of the Airbnb would let me shower at one of the Airbnbs for me to clean, so it was somewhere for me to kind of escape where I was at the moment. So I would say that's how I started, and then when I moved to Fishers, there's a very wide range of service that's being needed.
You started in vacation rentals, and did you just put the word out on Facebook, or like when you moved to Fishers, like how did you initially get into the vacation rentals?
So the vacation rentals, I actually texted a bunch of hosts on Airbnb, which they don't like at all.
Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. I know how hard it is to get vacation rentals. I hate it. Yeah, like I remember when I first was trying to get vacation rentals, I didn't know that wasn't allowed. So I went and messaged all of the hosts on Airbnb, and then I got banned. So don't do that.
They yelled at me. So I probably messaged 50 to 60, and I got one lead back, but it was reoccurring. So, and they had multiple locations, so it worked out. And then I took a break from cleaning when I became a full-time parent to my stepkids. And during that time, all I was doing was cleaning, and it was actually miserable. So then I thought, wow, I should just do this for money pretty much. I should continue this. When I was living in that area, it's not a very good area. There's not a lot of money to be made. So I made it a goal to move to Fishers to clean here. I was driving here. It's about 30 to 40 minutes one way. And I started doing, I did 10 free cleanings. Yes. 10 free cleanings, and those were a lot. But by the time that my last cleaning was booked, I didn't even want to do it because I didn't really have room in my schedule. I was so booked out at this point, and I had no no connections other than the 10 free cleanings to this community, but we just blew up and have been blown up ever since, pretty much. They love us.
Oh, yeah, no, and I love that that's where you started. That's literally verbatim like how I started with the free cleanings. And it's just amazing what that can do for you, not only from like a word of mouth standpoint, but from like a learning perspective, because obviously you have a knack for cleaning, but I'm sure that those free cleanings taught you a lot when it came to like timing and pricing and things like that. Yeah. Just like how to go about cleaning. And, you know, we're still always learning, obviously, as we come across new situations, but that's it. The very low expectations of a free clean is a great place to start, you know, when you're starting out, for sure. And so for you, you know, since, gosh, when you reached out to me, I know that really from day one, the challenges have been related to staffing because, like I said, you were, you know, pregnant. And I just like, for the people in the back, Zalia literally, I remember one time she had hired people and she was about to give birth. They like, what? No call, no show. You tell them. And you're like you, it was crazy. Tell the story.
Yes. So I had one girl at this point. I had went through like 5 cleaners within the past month, and I was heavily pregnant, dilated, like she was coming out at this point. And I was at the hospital, and the nurses told me, you need to get induced today. And I look at my phone, and my cleaner left the job. Midway through it, said I can't do it. So I left the hospital. It wasn't an emergency, but I have things to do. My supplies are there. I'm finishing this clean, and my partner actually came and helped me with it, luckily. So we got that clean done. And I had my baby after I had hired two more staff. Then I let them induce me.
You're like, you're not inducing me till I got my business all together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we made it through that time. It was hard, but we made it.
I literally, I am in awe of you because I cannot fathom it. That is just, I mean, I wouldn't suggest it, but you literally did what you needed to do. And honestly, you have gone through, I think, the universal challenges of starting out, like even you describing like going through like it's not like we just get one cleaner and then you get a second and then you get a third. It's like you get one and lose that one and then get one and lose that one and like over and over and over. I know that, again, that was totally my experience of like just trying to get one good one, you know, and that's so frustrating.
It was exhausting. There were so many points where I just cried because how do I look at another person again? I'm just exhausted. And I did find my one good cleaner so far. Stuck with me. Finally, a couple months after that, I'm so happy with her. She is just my saving grace, but on to looking for more, right?
Yeah. And that's, I'm glad you mentioned that it's like just that tenacity to like keep going, like just like, I think it's so easy to want to throw in the towel and just be like, you know what, people suck. And I know that like right where you are right now, like that is like the danger zone of like throwing in the towel for a lot of people, I think, or at least where you've been in the past like year or so with like just this kind of cycle of staff. And I know, you know, we've talked through a lot of different situations with the staff that you've had. And I know like there'd be multiple times, like, can we just like commiserate a little bit on some of like the staffing issues you've had where I've been like, you need to fire her. And you're like, oh, I don't know. But, and then it would be like, next time you'd be like, Stephanie, you can tell me I told you so.
Yes. Yeah. I will say when we first started talking, you told me that my first cleaners, they're all going to quit. You literally said that. And I had one cleaner at that time who should have been fired, but I kept her for like 6 months. And I was thinking, wow, Stephanie is being so negative right now. No, you were, yeah, more than correct.
So let's talk about those red flags, because I think like, especially when you're starting out, you just, one, you feel desperate. Like you're like, I just have to like keep them on. And two, I think you like, you know, you're a good person. You want to give people chances. So what were some of those behaviors that people were doing in the beginning there?
I would say the biggest one was probably not taking me or the job serious, which definitely had a lot to do with myself, me being so young. It was a lot of attitudes, but I wasn't hiring the correct people, still probably not. And then, of course, the not showing up or the excuses, the calling in last minute. We definitely deal with I deal with a lot of that.
Well, we all do. Trust me. Like, I mean, every single day of my life, people call in. So it's just what it is.
Exhausting for sure. Let's see. Yeah, I would more so just say the attitudes towards the work has probably been one of my hugest problems, only because we try to be super professional. Our clients are high-end clients. I've had a couple girls not accept feedback very well and, get booted out the door right that minute, because you can't make a client feel any type of way in their own home. That's just insane to me. So those type of behaviors. What behaviors are you looking for? What are you thinking?
For us, yeah, I think what you touched on with accountability, like that is going to be our number one trait of like, if they cannot take, corrective feedback or constructive feedback in a neutral or like a, okay, heard, and then let's improve kind of way, they're not going to work out, because you can't really teach that. Like if they just get really defensive, I mean, we've been able to correct it, I think, and really like use it as a teaching moment. But for the most part, I would say most people cannot, like, they can't get it together fast enough to not cause issues, especially with coworkers. And then, yeah, I would say, for the most part, because we're so established now, people take it seriously. I think when I was at your stage, especially that young age, and like, not having an office and all of those challenges that we face in the beginning, like, yeah, taking it seriously. It's just like, this is just like, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't really matter. And obviously, like, this is your everything, your baby, your pride and joy. And when they don't take it seriously, it's so insulting, and it's hard not to. Yeah, it's not to get like real, like really, like angry with them. Like, how could you behave in this manner or whatever? So I would say that. And then I don't want to use the word drama necessarily, but the chaos of people's lives, because where they just like, and this is something we still deal with to this day. And I've mentioned it before of, is this just a rough time in your life, or is your life always rough? And, it's just, you feel for them, but also you're trying, especially right now when you're trying to establish that consistency and that brand image of like, you can trust on us, you can depend on us. Like, we are your go-to cleaning service. Like, if they can't show up, and, for you're just, I remember last time we talked, you were cleaning a shit ton. Like, you were cleaning a shit ton still. And so what is that like now? Like, how has your new staff been? Like, where are you at right now?
So the same place. we have some talking to do. But I wanted to touch base on the problems in people's lives. You're exactly right. It's been hard for me to kind of figure out, is your whole life rough, or is it just a rough spot? Because people who have constant bad things happening to them, there's a pattern there. And I feel like it has a lot to do with just who they are as a person. That might sound a little bad, but it's so
true. It's 100% right.
The world works. Yeah. So when you're constantly having things happen, I'm just like, this probably isn't going to work out. And it is so hard to be, a boss and then try to be, a friend to them, because you're trying to get, stuff going. You're trying to get consistency, and then they're having all of these problems. The girl who I had talked to you about, the one that we just kind of had to let go because we agreed on just letting her go because she had back-to-back issues. She is coming back this week, tomorrow, actually. She reached out and said that she got all of those things together. She was having some car problems, some health problems, things like that. Just a lot of personal issues, and the reliability wasn't working out. So we will see how that goes tomorrow and next week. I'm excited because if you remember, I didn't want to let her go due to how well she was training, and just her consistency with the cleans was really good. She really didn't need much training. She was quick. She was professional. It really just came down to all of the personal issues. So hopefully we can see some change in that and get her going on our schedule.
That, like, just to interject, we have somebody who, they made it through like a week of training, and then they had like an emergency surgery and then been out for weeks. And so like, a brand new staff member. And so they're about to start again. Or we've had people, who have had, their car totally take a shit during training, and, you don't know this person. Whereas if they've worked for you for 6 months and that happens, you have that consistency to go off of. So definitely it's not like, I don't see those things necessarily as a red flag to the point that you're like, you're done. I think it's more so you really have to prove yourself when you do come back or show up. And so I would say, yeah, just like really, I don't want to say be on her, but be aware of, are we falling back into those same patterns,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Gently calling attention to it. Be like, hey, I'm noticing like, the attendance is an issue again. Like, and for us, ideally what we would do is bump the person back in hours to a place that they can be consistent if we do like their work, where we're like, we really want you on the team. Can you do 2 days a week consistently until they basically get their shit together, and then build them up and basically over hire in the frame of more bodies. Like I would rather have much more bodies, and that way we can spread the work amongst them, in the form of multiple part-timers basically, which I know, I mentioned to you before.
Yeah, gotcha. I think I'm just going to make sure that I'm not relying on her necessarily. She's just going to join some cleans, especially at first. Make sure that she can handle it, her car can handle it, the drive. And we're just going to see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well. And then I do have another girl who she hadn't started yet. Her first day she did have to call in though.
Okay.
Things are going well with her, but she hasn't had to call in. But there's just been things happening in her life over and over to where she's had to leave early for a doctor's appointment. She is a mother, though, and I think that she's just very needed at home. So she's on her 7th day of training. I'm hoping that we can make things work, but I'm almost feeling like it would be better for her to just stay home with her kids at this point, just due to all of the issues that have been happening. The most exhausting thing about this is training someone and then it not working out. That is really, even last year where I was at with all of those girls that I trained. That's time, it's money, it's exhausting. And for it to go nowhere, it's just not. So right now I am cleaning still, because we have so many cleans. And my partner, who owns a company too, gets on to me because I'm still on the tools technically. The only reason that I'm the one training is because we have too many cleans to not train. And I keep scheduling cleans a month out or so for a certain amount of girls, and a lot of the times we just don't hit that. Like trainees just don't end up working out. So then I'm stuck cleaning because I want to make sure that I have work for them instead of hiring them and not having work for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and you are the backup. Like you don't have some like intermediate person, and so I think that for like you are trying to push for growth, and that's the thing. You are trying to get this thing going, and I think that is an appropriate thing to do. And until you get some traction with staff members, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The only thing I would potentially suggest is I think you can push pricing. I really do, because if you are booked out and staffing is a struggle right now, and you have you have this finite amount of openings, increase prices, lower the number of people that are saying yes, but you're getting more money out of them. Because what are you right now? Like ish. Because you charge, wait, are you charging hourly? Remind me, did you switch to hourly?
Somewhat, yes. I still have some flat raters, but we've been moving into hourly, yes. So I thought that I could just start doing that because a lot of prices would go up if we just cut it to hourly. I think now is the time, because we have talked about that before, and I'm just like, okay, I'm a little scared. I don't want to lose everyone. At this point, I need to lose some baggage. So, but yes, we're around $50 an hour. I know you have looked at my estimate helper, and I don't charge like a certain amount. It all like calculates itself together, so it's hard for me to answer how much we actually charge an hour, but it's around that.
Yeah. So you may want to even just like, it's kind of an experiment of where is the tipping point of like, and this is where obviously tracking comes into place of how many people are, how many leads do you have coming in every week? How many are saying yes on average? And so if it's, 10 leads a week and 6 of them are saying yes, well, can we up it $10 a cleaning, and will 5 still say yes? Where the math is still working out, and just really seeing where that, where that breaking point is for people when it's like, okay, not enough people are saying yes kind of things. And there's a lot of like levers to pull when it comes to that. But we have had to do that multiple times, or not. For us, price increases have oftentimes been triggered by staffing is like fucking blowing right now. Like we're having a really hard time staffing. And so if we don't have more openings, we need to make more money out of the openings that we do have. And that's kind of got to be your mentality, is like, if you're struggling with staffing, and especially if you're cleaning, like might as well, make what you can make. Right. And at least you're putting more in your pocket. Right. So it's not a bad thing. And I think like, I am so envious of you are starting out and you're at around $50 an hour. I started, and it was like starting at $30 an hour and having to build up to that price over time, over, literally years of creeping up to that price. So I'm glad that you just got to the chase and charged what the going rate is, which is $50 an hour.
Well, you had told me that because I wasn't charging correct, and you said, okay, no. But if you may not remember this, but I also was charging for man hours. I did not understand that. I was charging 1 man hour for 2 cleaners for like a year.
I know. I remember that when we figured that out, and that was such a good like learning point you would like say you'd say, oh, it takes 4 hours, and you're charging for 4 hours, or the equivalent in a flat rate, but actually it was 8 man hours. It was 2 cleaners for 4 clock hours. And so this is why like I hammer home to people that, because it's such an easy mistake to make. And even clients get confused to the point, like I literally have a diagram of stick people explaining what man hours mean in our client guidelines, because it's such a confusing term to some people, the whole labor hours thing. So even just that, I'm sure your guys' profitability like skyrocketed to making sure that you're charging enough, basically.
Yeah. Yes. And I was also charging, for initial cleans, they were around $300, which is insane. Now they're between $500 and $700 because that's just where it needs to be. So that was a huge change. And it's honestly, that's something important to talk about, because those small realizations can really do something huge for you and your business. And I've had so many of them.
What you're touching on right now, I think, is one of the biggest lessons for every single person to learn, is that you only learn by doing and then like adjusting, because we can all analyze and try to make everything as perfect as possible before we jump in. But the biggest lessons, and it's going to be just doing the thing and then making adjustments, because you and I have both made about 1 million mistakes, and then we learn from them, right? And the biggest thing is the whole learning and adjusting. Don't just keep doing the same thing. But I remember we had talked, and you were talking about like move out cleans and initial cleans. And it was kind of, in my opinion, it was a fear of saying a big number that was like holding you back from pricing these appropriately, And I mean, people are still saying yes when you're doubling the price, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, of course. But looking back, now there's no way I do an initial clean for less than $400 or $500 for sure. That's so just not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what other questions do you have? I know you said you had a list, so let's go through them.
Okay. And I add to this list monthly, and it just keeps going. The oven pads. You guys use the green scour pads, don't you, for ovens? So I think that we use the same ones, and we scratched an oven with those pads, like inside of the oven, not the glass, the oven.
Really?
Yes. And the client wasn't mad or anything, but I could not believe it. We've used these pads for years, and I could not believe that we did. She said maybe it's because it's a newer oven. So I wanted to, for one, let you know that. And for two, see if you guys already knew that and we're using something different, because that's our go-to. Yeah,
no, us too. And I'm wondering if it wasn't like wet enough or something, because we've never had an issue. I like with the more abrasive like green scrubbing pads, we exclusively only use those on like gas oven grates where it's like cast iron, and then also the interiors of ovens. So I wonder if it was newer. Anybody, shout out in the comments if you guys have had any issues with that. I would just, I guess going forward, switch to the blue non-scratch scrubbing pads. They're less abrasive, but that's where scrapers come in. That's where pumice stones. I'm like, what is the thing? Pumice stones come into place. Again, having it wet is going to be helpful. And then going in with steel wool, barkeeper's friend, like all of those kind of like, we got like, I feel like you sometimes have to throw the kitchen sink at ovens like that. Like I literally just go through the gamut of like, let it soak for as long as possible. So if you have an oven, you get in there, you spray that immediately when you get in the house, and then let it like soak as long as you possibly can. That is feasible. Ideally 2 hours. Like I want that thing soaking for at least 2 hours, which especially if it's a move out, which usually that's where ovens are done. You know, we instruct our cleaners to start in the kitchen, but what we do is just make sure that you leave the sink for last and leave the oven for last. So do everything else, do all the cabinets, do the fridge, every other, you know, that's going to take you at least 2 hours, and then get to the oven, leaving obviously the sink so you can use the sink to clean with, and, you know, get all that first layer of sludge, scrape anything you can off with the scraper, and then, going in with barkeeper's friend, the scrubby sponges, pumice stones to get like the baked on, like, chunks basically, and then you know, fine clean it with the steel wool once you like, you know, just keep cleaning out that sludge and debris and then shining it up nicely. But I'm really surprised that happened because we've never scratched the inside of an oven, and we do them all the time. So like, I'm sorry that happened.
Luckily the client was not mad, but the scratches were definitely from us because it was a brand new oven. So I just wanted to touch base on that because I'm still in shock. I'll probably always be in shock.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you let us know. I'm gonna talk to my managers about this after we jump off this call because I want to make sure that we are good to go.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know like the brand or anything? Did it look like a normal oven to you?
I have a picture of it. I can email you. But it was a normal oven. She just said it was a newer oven. It was brand new, so I'm assuming it's just a newer oven. But the inside of it all looked how any other oven looks. Yeah, because we know not to touch the glass with those pads. Made that mistake before too, for sure. But yeah, the bottom of it, and we did go pretty hard on it, I will say that, because there is a lot of times where we can't get an oven fully clean, especially the bottom. There's always staining. That one we were able to get completely off, so maybe we've just never went as hard as we did on an oven.
Scrub the finish off almost. So something to be cognizant of, but I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm happy the client wasn't upset because, that's never any fun when we destroy something.
That would be expensive. So
yes.
Absolutely. Okay. I want to talk to you about an initial price actually. So my first time ever that it has been communicated, I had a client who was hoping to be a biweekly, not close with me because of the initial clean price. Okay. And I've never heard that before. I've always wondered because it is a $700 price right off the bat. I did offer her some payment methods though. Like we do have a down payment, so that's part of it. And then I told her she could pay it off within two payments, 2 different weeks. What is your take on that? Have you ever done a payment process? Think that it was going to be a biweekly client though, so we want that because she liked that price.
Okay, I got it. So yeah, it's just that initial clean price. That's so funny. I just saw an email come through of an estimate that we did, and we did a follow up, and they're like, you know, I'm sure your prices are reasonable. I just can't do the $500 to $700 initial clean. And so our rebuttal to that is always offering the limited hour agreement. Like, what is the budget for the first time? And then basically we're just going to do chunks of the home until it's all up to snuff. Like each visit, we're just doing a partial clean of the home up till we meet their budget. And that allows us to get in the door and show them our services, because something is better than nothing. So, you know, if it's going to take 10 man hours to get that initial clean done, and for them, the budget is really around like that 4 hour mark. Okay, we'll do 4 hours, get, you know, about half the house done. 2 weeks later, get the other half, and then we can just maintain it from there. So it's going to take you a month to get it all up to snuff, but you got them in the rotation as opposed to not getting them at all. Payment plans, I've never even thought about offering that. I guess like I would be hesitant. I guess if I had a card on file, maybe I would consider it. I'm not sure. I guess, could try it. If you get burned, don't do it again. But if it works, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
It would be 2 payments. I wouldn't do, a 12-month payment plan or something like that. Really, I kind of just came up with it when I was emailing her because I was she said she needed time to just think on it because I had already let her know we can split this clean up. We can do 2 different cleans. And then once again, the deposit is a payment in itself. We can easily pay this. But to make more sense for my schedule, honestly, I would rather almost just do the clean and then have her pay the balance within 2 different weeks. But it would have been good for me to explain to her that it would be honestly a month before we could even get her in for the full big clean. We could probably get the 2 cleans done within the next month. Does that make sense?
Yep, exactly. Yep, I know exactly what you mean. Because an initial clean, it's very hard to get in. That's the hard part is when you have availability, but you have, 4 to 6 hours. You don't have that big chunk of time. So, and even when I first started, the only way I could do initial cleans was because I was the only cleaner. I did them over several days or evenings, really, or the weekend or whatever, and just, got it done and then, went into maintenance mode from there. So I think you could have multiple options with her. Wait and see what she says and then go from there. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed, especially again, make sure you have a card on file, make sure you get that down payment to just cover your ass. But other than that, if you're pretty confident in her going to a reoccurring, then I wouldn't be opposed to it, honestly. But I guess our go-to behavior when people say that first one's out of budget is we just do a limited hour. And the response is, well, what is the budget? Let's work with that. Let's get chunk of the house done, and then do the next chunk, and then it's up to snuff. We're good to go, or break it up however it needs to be. So you do have a couple options there. So I'm curious to hear what she says for sure.
Yes, me as well. That brings me into my next question. So we have been doing Venmo, Zelle, check, Cash App. That's how we've been getting our payments because it's free pretty much, and it's a lot cheaper. So I was wanting to work my way into Square because managing all of those payments coming through, all these different payment apps, sometimes I can't hit payroll when I need to because of the fact that I'm waiting on all these transfers. It was just too much. And we don't have really an invoice system. So I looked into Square. It's expensive. The credit card fees I don't even know if it would be worth it at this point. So what is your take on that?
So if you want to be a big grown-up business, you need to use a payment processor. And I think that being an individual cleaner and, accepting different forms of payment all over the place is fine, but you are going to have a hell of a time because of exactly what you said, managing all of these payments, and just the chaos of it. It's just they're paying this way, paying people. And you will greatly enjoy, and it is much more scalable for you to just, we invoice here and they can pay with any card they like, or even bank transfer, they can pay with Square, I believe, at least, that's typical. No matter what, any payment processor is going to be between 3 and 3.5%. And that is a cost of doing business. At $50 an hour, you can afford it. It is a cost of doing business. And so, we pay over $20,000 a year in credit card payment processing. And you pay one way. You can you can pay in check or you pay card or card on file, whatever. But it's for us, we're through QuickBooks Online. I would suggest just go with Square. And it integrates with ZenMaid really beautifully. So just go with Square. Then you'll be able to do your invoicing right through ZenMaid as well. So that will be a lot easier for you to manage because you'll be able to see which customers have paid right in ZenMaid. So it's super duper convenient in that way. So I think this is a suck it up and pay it kind of thing. And I know it seems like a lot, but you won't what's your monthly revenue right now? Do you know, on average?
Around between 12 and 14,000.
Yeah. So we're talking, I don't know what the math is on that, but what, less than $1,000 a month, or definitely less. I can't do math at all. That's totally wrong. But it's a small amount, a couple $100, I believe. So it is definitely worth it. And your customers will appreciate the professionalism of your invoicing. And you will appreciate the I just have one place to go. Like this is it.
Okay.
Kind of. And and just from a tax perspective, like in your bookkeeping, like it has got to be a night. I'm assuming the bookkeeping's a bitch, or it is perhaps not happening with all of these payment processors. Hashtag no judgment. We listen and we don't judge, Zyla, but I'm judging you silently. So get your shit together and just get a payment processor.
Yeah, gotcha. You would think after how many times I've been burned by the IRS that I would learn. So I am learning this year. We're getting a bookkeeper.
Yay!
I was call her. So,
Yay.
Okay, I'm trying to find that. Mm-hmm. And so what do you guys use? You don't use Square, you use QuickBooks?
Yeah, we use QuickBooks Online. We will be eventually transitioning to Square, but our boat is it takes a lot longer for us to shift. Just because it integrates with ZenMaid specifically. I know Stripe does as well. And I know a lot of people like Stripe, but we did some research and we're going to go the Square route. I think it's better for us. So I think they're probably a horse apiece, but yeah, would suggest Square.
Gotcha. And have you looked at the invoices for ZenMaid, the invoices that they have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So apparently they're getting a new look sometime this year. It says... I wasn't a fan of how they looked. I couldn't figure out how to add my logo though. Mm-hmm. But so you guys don't use those?
Nope, not yet. They are, like what you said, they're like totally revamping the look of the invoices. Mm-hmm. Also, like another thing with the payments is they are, and I don't know when this one is launching or this podcast is going live, but they are launching like this tips feature to basically like collect more tips for your clients. And it's going to be super duper nifty, but the only way that works is if you accept payment through them, basically. So it's going to actually like incentivize and automatically like text your clients and ask them for tips. And so it's going to like increase your cleaners tips. So that'll be really nice. So yes, their invoicing is getting a new look as well.
Okay. Yeah. I love ZenMaid.
I know.
And I love how much they just constantly are changing and growing and learning.
I know. It really is amazing. And just like just all of the features that are like coming out are freaking incredible and are so specific to us. Like this is for the cleaning industry. Like this is very like even like digital checklists and everything. Have you started using the digital checklist? I'm curious, or are you still doing paper?
I haven't. So we don't do paper. Mm-hmm. The digital ones, do you mean to send to clients or for the girls?
For the girls, to like check off things on their appointments. That might help. I mean, I don't know if you're having any consistency issues, but I think it would be really useful, just especially with the newbies of like what is expected of me, to like assign the checklist to the appointment and then they can just check it off in their app. And actually the checklist that we use, like those Serene Clean templates, they're in the checklist hub under ZenMaid. Yeah, you can totally just assign those.
I was very happy to see that because it's my checklist pretty much.
So there you go. So you could totally especially, that might be really useful for newbies, well, really everybody, but where you just want to make sure, and then they can leave notes on each task line of like, hey, I didn't do this. And then you have that explanation as to why, if a client does come back of like, well, they didn't do the bathroom because your husband was taking a shit in it. So, and you have that information.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah, I started out with wanting to do the checklist that we leave at each clean. Are you not doing the paper ones anymore?
Still are doing the paper ones. Like that for us, like I'm married to that. And so I've made that clear to ZenMaid. I'm like, I need something that can go to the clients. But I think for your size, especially, it's more an internal thing, like for consistency and really like just establishing that, considering staffing is the current issue kind of thing, I would say, and just the training and all of that. It's a really good training tool. But yeah, I've made it clear that the next iteration of the checklist, I want to basically send like a PDF to the client. But until that point, we are going to continue to do paper checklists, at least for
Gotcha. My next question. So I have a client who, it's actually kind of weird. So it's my neighbor. They saw me loading supplies in my car, and I honestly hate that. I do not want a client that lives right across the street from me, can hear me yell at my kids, can see my life. No. So I almost said no, and I almost wish that I would have because I did a walkthrough of his apartment, and all was going well. He wanted to clean. We were going to get it done. But the only thing that he didn't understand my pricing, because I was charging hourly for an initial clean. And then I charged $44 for the oven. And is that your price for your oven still?
Well, we just charge like whatever the time it takes. We don't do an upcharge or anything. So I know other companies are other ways, but if you charge flat rate, yes, you need to charge obviously like a finite amount. But for us, we just tell them ovens typically take about an hour to clean. So whatever time it takes is what we're going to charge. So for you, does he want the oven on the initial or the maintenance clean?
The initial.
Okay, got it. That's where the confusion is, because for you, like the price would more so be on the maintenance clean because that's flat rate, where if you're charging hourly on the first one, that means that the time it takes to the oven is you're going to be charging, and then an additional upcharge, which, you know, you do you.
Yeah.
Totally fine. But he's probably confused by that.
So it confused me too. It was one of those situations where I was like, I don't know why it's like that. My problem is that I've implemented so many new things from you specifically, going hourly, but I'm not fully implementing them. So then I run into shit like this where it just doesn't make sense. I literally didn't know what to say to him. But yeah, I was just charging $44 for an oven, and then the rest of it was just hourly. So yes, I will for sure be, not charging specific. Mm-hmm. However, we didn't get the clean. I didn't necessarily argue though. Again, I didn't want to do it. So whatever, but I'm glad that.
Well, yeah, because I need to think what if shit goes south and he lives across, your street? Like, that's super
yeah. I think about my windows are open right now, and it's just not. No.
That guy's a shitbag. He sounds terrible.
Well, he was nice. He just did not understand that specific thing. And I was just like, wow, is that really why you're not going to go through with this? Yeah. But, okay.
It's meant for the best. And now for you two understanding, because that was actually something in the beginning I thought of I'm going to charge an upcharge for an oven or fridge or whatever. But when you're charging hourly, that doesn't really make sense. You can't. But if you're charging flat rate, you absolutely need to, right? So it just, you have to really, and that's where a lot of people are doing the hybrid method, which is charging hourly for the initial and then going to flat rate for the maintenance cleans, which I think is in my opinion, is one of the ideal. I mean, obviously I charge hourly across the board, but if I could snap my fingers and change it, I think that that's the most profitable. But that's where for you have two rules. That means if they have on the initial clean or move outs, do you do flat rate?
No.
Okay. So move outs are hourly too. That means that for both move outs and initial cleans, you do not charge an upcharge for ovens. You just charge time that it takes. But then on maintenance cleans, if they add on an oven, there is an upcharge. So just being really clear on what that looks like.
So a lot of my current reoccurring cleans, they are where their price needs to be, because I've learned finally, but there are some that I also just charge hourly because what they want is so confusing. So the area in their home changes each time. That's way too hard for me to try and price, so I just tell them, okay, we'll just do hourly, or they just buy 7 or 8 hours each clean. We make it work with whatever they want. So going back and forth between flat rate and hourly, I don't know if we'll ever just stick to one of them, but charging hourly for the initial cleans and the move outs, I didn't start doing that at first because I was scared, but eventually I got burned so many times. You have to charge hourly for those types of things for sure.
Yeah. And I have talked to folks who they've figured out the whole their formula for pricing basically initial cleans on a flat rate, and basically they just massively have a huge I guess I don't want to say overcharging, but they just if somebody rates it a 5 or dirtier, sight unseen, they add $200 just to cover their asses. And so I think that can work, but it's just so much simpler at this point to charge hourly on that. And that way, if it is, if something is taking longer and, you have a reasonable explanation, it's well, we just charge for more time. And I am glad that you highlighted that, you do have clients who do the kind of rotation of tasks. It's just we have regular clients, a ton of them, who are on that limited hour cleaning every single visit, meaning we don't clean the house every single time. And it gets challenging when you're charging flat rate to rotate tasks because like you said, it's like, well, different rooms take different times, or like, what if they want something, like it just makes it complicated where it's like, you're paying for 3 hours.
Yeah.
What's the priority list today? We'll do as much as we can, and boom. It's very simple. And I'm sure, people would argue like, oh, there's more profitable ways, but sometimes keep it simple, stupid is like the easiest answer for us for sure.
Yeah. It's such a headache to try and sit there and calculate all of that. No way. So
sure.
You got to avoid that at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wanted to touch base with you on the whole vacuum situation. This is a perfect time to do it. Do you remember the girl? I hired an 18-year-old, a fresh 18-year-old.
Is this a stinky vacuum thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't hire 18-year-olds. So I did.
Legally, that is a joke. Do not discriminate on age, but
it's a lot of responsibility, you could say. So she had started out kind of good, but there was some 18-year-old attitude there. I kind of looked past it. The vacuum, I did charge her for the vacuum. And do you want to know why? Because she never returned the shirts. So I technically didn't have to pay her what I owed her anyways. Of course she did backfire with, okay, well, my lawyer said you can't do that. And I said, well, give him my email or my number and
she ain't got a lawyer.
Yeah, I know. So that vacuum, actually, I just threw it away. I was using it for an as-needed at my home for whatever reason. But I got a new filter. I washed the entire thing. The smell did not come out. I don't know.
What was it, cigarette or weed smell? What was it?
Animal. I don't know. It was bad enough that we had to open the windows after we used it here.
Oh my gosh.
And I bought all new filters and still it did not work. I don't know what she did. I don't know if she lived on a farm, what happened.
She was cleaning the pasture with it. Like why does this thing stink so badly?
Yeah, it was stressful because you had told me to bite the cost of the filter, which was fine. I planned on doing that anyways. My thing was just the whole vacuum and then, of course, the shirts that never came back to me, which I didn't care at that point. However, I wanted to bring this up mostly because I changed some things on our agreement.
Because I was going to ask, I can't remember, did you get the return of company property policy? Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
I was like, I think you have that. Are you having them sign it when you hire them? Okay, so you are absolutely covered. Her lawyer would not, her non-existent lawyer would not have shit on you because they are signing to agree to return their stuff. Yep.
For sure. So there were some things that I wanted to talk to you about on that agreement actually. So it says on there that when you return the supplies, you will get your payment in check. Mine had actually said that, and technically I was wrong because I guess I shouldn't say anymore, but I didn't do the whole check method because I had to check the supplies. And the supplies, actually, it took me a couple days to check them all because I had to let the vacuum dry and try to save it. So my thing now I had to add to it was that I need to be given time to assess these supplies to make sure that they're even in good condition versus them just handing us the supplies and then they get their check and they're on their way. I'm happy that I didn't do that. I'm happy that I kept the payroll, the money until, for one, it was even due to her because I don't give it to them right away. I wait until the next payroll day. But I had to assess, and she was very mad, harassed me for hours about sending the money. However, I knew that I needed to make sure that that vacuum was good beforehand.
So being that it was before payroll was due, meaning when she would normally be paid out, even if they give their notice, I think you are totally in the clear. So say payday is Friday and, her last day was on Tuesday. Well, you have until Friday to pay her. You don't have to pay them out like that day. It's when the next payroll. I think if that same situation happened and it was like the Friday she would normally get paid, that's where you could get into funny business because then you are holding a check. So I think that most likely situation will not happen. As for basically assessing for working condition, supplies need to be returned in working condition in order to, I'm not sure on that because this is one I might want to check on because I'm not I don't know what we have. Do we have anything in that policy about like the condition of the supplies or the shirts or anything like that. Actually, you bring up a potential blind spot, because I could see like, we have a pissed off employee, they completely like shred or throw bleach on all of their supplies, right? Like, or their shirts, and destroy them. Like, that's a really good, I'm glad you're bringing this up, because our policy might have a blind spot of what if they do that, you know, because they're returning them, you know, as per the agreement, but they're not in like salvageable material. So I think you have just pointed out a blind spot in our policy. So I'm really happy you're telling this story.
Yes.
And so I am not sure on the legality of that. I am going to have to chat GPT it, because that's exactly what I'm going to do when we're off this call. So I'm really happy you brought this up. And spoiler alert, this is how Stephanie solves all of her problems. So let me chat GPT that. But that's a really good point. And I think you didn't do anything wrong, because you didn't do anything wrong. She signed the agreement. It was before the established payday that she would normally get paid. So I think you're in the clear, because I'm assuming you did, you paid her, right?
I paid her minus
amount. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I owed her a check that week, and then she had one coming the following week too.
Okay.
She did not get that one because she did not return the shirts in the first place. And then the vacuum. So it was an easy, you're just not getting paid pretty much.
Yeah. And so for everybody listening in this, like basically return of company policy, that it's very important that you have your staff sign this upon hire, or any of your current staff if you put something into place. And basically what that says is that they are agreeing to return all of their supplies upon their termination or upon their quitting. And then anything that they don't return, like we put an estimated dollar amount to that, and it's going to be taken out of that final paycheck. You cannot legally do that unless you have a policy like that in place. So it's an excellent policy. And I mean, you will feel the burn enough that you have to put it in place when people don't return all their shit. So once that happens, one too many times, that's when you probably feel this. But I would highly encourage you to put something into place now before that happens, if you haven't had that happen yet. Because again, we can't withhold checks or anything, but if we have it in writing and it's because they have not returned it. And for us and for Zalia, it's like, we're going to call the cops on you for theft of services, theft of supplies. And that usually solves the problem right quick. So once you start throwing police action.
Absolutely. And I will say that I think, around $400 that I owe to all different cleaners because they never return the shirts. And that's not me not telling them that they need to. It's that I've messaged them and said, hey, make the drive and you can get your payments. And they just don't. It's very uncommon for them to return the shirts to me, if I'm being honest. That agreement, again, fully seals it. And I think that we have it in our handbook too. So I have it in there twice. But I definitely, after the whole issue with that girl, I had to add a whole lot more about they need to be in working condition. They need to be able to be used as well, because the vacuum did work. It just smelled. There was no way in hell that's going in a client's home. It had to say like pretty much perfect used condition. You're able to use it. And then also that you would call the police, because I think that I ran into something where, like, I just fired a girl today, actually, the one that wasn't cutting it with time. So it was a sad fire almost, because we didn't want to, but I don't owe her any money, and she has shirts because she hasn't worked in a week plus. Yes, that was the other thing. Like, if a cleaner doesn't work for 2 weeks, say they're sick, and then you feel like you need to fire them for a reason, they have your supplies and they have your shirts. You have no money to hold over them. You need to make sure that it says that you will call the police in that agreement.
Yep.
So just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm really happy you're bringing that up. And it's such like, these are the very specific examples of, like, you don't know until you run into it. And so I'm really happy that you brought that up, that you need something to basically like hold over their head. Otherwise they're quitting. They don't give a shit, or they're getting fired. They don't give a shit. They're not going to return your stuff. And when we're talking about 5, shirts, like that are in perfect condition that they are not going to wear. You can use those for another staff member. Like, we want those back. Like, cause the shirts add up quick. Oh my gosh. So really expensive, especially when they don't return them. So like just saying like, this is theft. You're stealing from me, and I can legally call the cops on you. And that makes them act right typically 90% of the time.
For sure. Yes. That brings me into my next question. Law Depot. Do you know what that is?
What is it?
Law Depot. It's an app, or it's a website for like legal agreements. Okay. So that's where I have my cleaner sign a whole bunch of stuff. Most of it did come from you. Those are great. Thank you. Lifesavers. But then I have them sign a whole legal document that honestly, I couldn't tell you what is all in it. I just know that my previous mentor had us do this, and they had to fill it out. Pretty much ensures that they don't steal our clients or our employees, I believe. I wanted to just ask you if you knew about that website. I'm trying to make sure that all of my legalities are where they need to be.
Yeah, so, it's probably similar to LegalZoom, I would say, where it can kind of just like create legal documents for you. So the biggest thing is, as long as there's nothing in there about like a non-compete, like when it comes, you can have them not be cleaning on the side, like that is allowed, but you can't tell them they can't clean after the fact, meaning after they're done being employed with you. You can't stop them from cleaning there. And if you had anything in there, it would never stand up anyway. So that would be the only caveat I would say. You can absolutely have something that your clients sign, or I would highly recommend everybody having a non-solicitation in their client guidelines. Is that what you're talking about when like, don't steal my cleaners? And then when it comes to the
client, of course.
Yeah. And then the cleaner is signing, saying something. They're not soliciting your clients to basically work on the side or work around or anything. So all of that is perfectly legal. It's just, you can't have a non-compete basically after the fact of them, cleaning for you. And obviously if you run independent contractors, all of this is null and void. They're allowed to do whatever they want when it comes to, cleaning.
Yeah.
We run W-2s, so totally allowed there.
Gotcha. Okay. Would you hire someone who is wanting to start their own cleaning business or has their own cleaning business? You are pretty established, so I'm going to go with yes, you would. But for me, that kind of makes me wonder, will I have that whole stealing my client situation?
So you would be wrong. We will never hire a cleaner that has their own cleaning business because we hire employees. If we ran independent contractors, that is what you're hiring, and there's no problem with that. But honestly, this is going to sound kind of like, I don't want anybody who wants to open their own cleaning company. I know a lot of people have a wonderful experience of, the way I see it, training your competition. I've had that happen multiple times where staff members have gone and, opened their own cleaning businesses, and more power to them. I don't know, I want people who are really content working for someone else and don't have a super strong entrepreneurial fire, because all of my best staff members who have been with me for years, they have no interest in opening their own cleaning businesses. And so we have interviewed people who have have owned their own cleaning businesses in the past in other areas or whatever. It's never worked out. They have just been very ostentatious. And what I mean by that, if I'm using that word correctly, is they were pig-headed about well, this is how, I think it should be done. And not that I don't think that that's a wonderful trait to have and to have that feedback, but more so just they wouldn't we do things in a certain way and we're very open to feedback. But you can't you don't get to climb on top of the counters because that's how you did it in your business. Our insurance doesn't allow that. And literally putting the business at risk because basically blatant disregard for the way we do things at Serene Clean. Yeah. And so there's a lot of reasons, I guess. I would not hire somebody who has their own cleaning business. If they work at another company, we have done that before where, they work, maybe nights and they want to get into residential. We literally are hiring somebody right now that works for a competitor, but only in the evening. So I'm willing to do that because most likely we're going to be able to steal them away, right? Because it's going to be way better here and we're going to get them full hours. So that gives me no problem as long as they're not like high up in the company, because obviously it's like give them all of our trade secrets. Not that there's any secrets. They literally could just watch my podcast, but like, but I don't want to make it easier on them in our service area. So, that might be a hot take. And I understand people that may be like, oh, Stephanie, like that's not a very like bountiful, abundance mindset. Like, I don't really care. Like
I've had a lot of interviews where they have said, oh, well, I'm just looking to supplement some income because we don't have enough cleans. But I just am like, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to.
So unless you can pay them more than what they are making by themselves, like in their own business, there's not really an incentive not to steal. And I'm remembering, whose interview did I do that I asked like if that happened, but they ran ICs. So it's not really a problem with ICs because she was able to pay them just as much. Simone, in Australia, she runs independent contractors, and they have their own clients on in their business, and they get clients from her as well. But she's able to pay them just as much as they would be able to pull in themselves. You can't do that. Like you can't do that. They're going to make more money in there. So they would be highly incentivized. They're in the client's home. They're making that relationship, and, they could easily be like, hey, I can charge you less than her business, and they would make more. So not saying that would happen, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, if I was in their shoes, if I were in their shoes, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I try to take your clients, frankly? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we have been using Indeed more texting wise. You had sent me, I'm sure, the chat GPT, the list, to update. I need to update that. It's on my list to do. Yep. I love it. I was texting candidates through my messages on my phone, and then my phone was being blown up all the time. It was way too much. Just
like with your personal phone number? Girl, you're going to get a stalker. What are you doing?
Yeah. We've talked about this. So I started using Indeed to do that. And honestly, it's made it a little bit harder because I will text them and then I forget. And it's hard because I'll get an email in like 2 days that says that they've texted me 2 days prior. So I am working on doing the group interviews finally. Honestly, I just wasn't confident enough to be in that type of setting. I do see some benefit with individual interviews, and you do none of those, correct?
So we do a second round, or we're actually implementing that now, where the group interview is the filtering process. Because if they can't show up to that, we don't even want to waste time. And so they show up, and we're doing completely online, like digital group interviews. It's all on Zoom now. So we have switched over to that. And so again, if they can't even show up to a Zoom interview, which 2/3 of them cannot, we do not want to even waste our time trying to schedule an individual. And then if we like them in that, then we're setting up that traditional second interview. And that's where we're going to be asking more like actual interview questions, as opposed to like the group interview is to sell us and for us to get the vibe from them. And then that second interview is more like getting to know this actual candidate. And so I think that will really, really help you. And even like when it comes to, I know Indeed is more challenging when it comes to what you're talking about. They might have an app on the phone. Does Indeed have an app? They might.
They do. Yeah.
Okay. So you may be able to turn on the notifications for the messages through there. Otherwise, honestly, what I would do, set yourself a reoccurring like calendar reminder at whatever time every single day to check Indeed messages. Like, and then you don't have to worry about like remembering if it's a problem.
I know. I tried to get a calendar in with Indeed so they could schedule their interviews electronically, but then it wasn't working out. It was only giving them like one time frame at 8 a.m, something. So I just went back to texting them. However, that has to stop because it's not going anywhere, because I'll text 10 different people, 10 different interview times. They can't do that time, and then
group interviews is going to literally change your life, and you can offer them a couple times. So we just offer them a couple times, and then it's just a Zoom meeting link that you just send them, and then you just open the Zoom, whoever shows up. And obviously you can do in person as well. And that's what we did for years. And in person, maybe, I was so against like doing it all digital for a long time, but now like I'm seeing it. And especially because our service range has expanded so much, like asking people who live 45 minutes away in an area that we're trying to hire to like drive for a group interview, that feels really shitty to me, where like, where again, it's a group interview. So I would much rather, can they show up to the Zoom? Do we even like them? And it's just a lot easier. So
I like that.
Yeah. So that might be a good solution for you, especially because you don't have an office. You don't have an office yet. So also, which color are you going to pick? I see you're going to paint your walls. Which one?
I knew you were going to say something. My partner owns a painting company. This was for someone else. This has been here for a year. Yeah.
That is such a man thing, especially when they own they do it for a living.
Yeah. So it's just hidden behind the door.
Oh, that's funny. I was like,
cool, right?
I love those colors. That's funny.
So I had some concerns with doing a group interview too, because it's one time a week, or maybe I do twice a week, and it'd be really hard for people to meet that. But Zoom interviews, that could be a whole different ballpark. However, no one shows up to interviews here, and I don't understand, because a lot of people complain about how bad the market is, but when I have like 50 people interested, probably 10, that might be too much. 10 people show up to the interview, finally get to that point.
That is absolutely like totally normal and what is to be expected. And that's why I just don't want you wasting your time. Like for us, I would say, on average, if like 5 people a week or whatever say that they can make it, 2 will make it. Like that is our typical rate. Yeah. So it's like, we just do not waste time, and then, of the 2, maybe you will like 1, right? So that's why it's such a miracle worker for that filtering process. And so I think it's going to be really great for you. Yeah. Offer them 2 times, and then if you want to make an exception, you can. And again, it's a Zoom, right? And that will make it a little bit more. And the nice thing is you can always tweak it. If you're like, you know what, this is not working out well, let me go back to like in person and like try in-person group interviews, then that's great. And for us, another thing too is like, if they can't figure out how to use Zoom, like they're going to be expected to use ZenMaid, which is like the easiest app ever to use. But if they can't figure out how to do like log into a Zoom meeting, we give them instructions. They have Google. They're not going to be able to problem solve here. Like they need to be able to use technology. Like they're going to have to use Google Maps. They're going to have to use, like for us, our payroll software, and all of these things are pretty darn easy to use. But like, if you can't even troubleshoot how to like log into a Zoom, like my grandma could do that. So like, you're not a good problem solver. So that in itself is kind of like a filtering process of like, are you a problem solver?
Yeah. I like that, because I've had 2 cleaners that I've hired that I've had a hard time unlocking doors.
Yeah.
You would think that this is, why am I even saying this? It's such a small problem. It's not. I mean, my partner or I have had to leave whatever we're doing to unlock a door 30 minutes away for a cleaner, multiple occasions. Just problem solving like that. I've just thought, wow, this isn't going to work out.
Yeah. And, kind of going back to your very first question of like the traits, like being able to problem solve and like pivot, if you will, is such an important trait in our cleaners, because, and that's something we try to teach them as well, of like, even what do you do in a lockout? And like, we have these, this procedure that they need to try to solve the problem before contacting the office, right? And say, these are the things that I've done to try to solve this. Because otherwise they're just going to reach out to us, and then we're going to do those same things that they were going to do. And they're just sitting there like a silly duck, right? And so we need them to do the first 3 steps before they reach out to us. So this is kind of the same thing with like, door locking of like, we've had that too, where, and rightfully so, we've had some tricky locks before where the battery has died on the coded lock or whatever. Like that has absolutely happened, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we have been struggling with the whole not limited hour. I guess whenever we go overtime on an initial clean, how does that get communicated? Does the cleaner call the managers? Do they talk to the client? How does that work?
So it depends if the client is home or not. So the biggest thing is, when it comes to not pissing off a client, with this situation, is at what time in the cleaning are we establishing that we don't have enough time. We did not estimate enough time for whatever reason. And most likely, hopefully the situation is it's dirtier than a typical clean, right? When you have production audits and things like that. So what we instruct our cleaners to do is they do the kitchen and the bathrooms first, and then they must stop and pause and say, do I think I have enough time? Whether that be talking with their teammate, like, how are you doing? Where are we at? Like, okay, they should be roughly like halfway through the clean is ideally like the goal, because then all of the, all of the dry rooms are left basically. And so if that is not the case and they're like, no, we need more time, they are to instruct us, and then we take care of the communication with the client. And that is so that they can keep cleaning and keep working and not having to like deal with all of this like back and forth with the client. So this is an instance of like, we want to handle that part. The only instance where that would not be the case is if the client is home, because then it's like, the cleaner can go explain the situation, describe like and the biggest thing is the cleaner needs to provide like an estimated amount of time. You can't just be like, I need more time. Like we need to be like, how much are you thinking? And they're like, well, I think we'll need an extra hour or 2 man hours or whatever. And if you're any farther off than that, you need to look at your production rate audits, because it's like something's wrong here, or this house is way worse than typical. And if that's the case, the client knows it, right? So, and your cleaners at that point, they do that initial walkthrough. They should let you know, like, this is way dirtier than our typical initial cleans. Cause obviously first time cleans, they're just going to take a long time. So this helps avoid pissing off the client. And then at that halfway point, and you communicate, like, I think we need 2 more man hours. Would you like to add that on? If that's even possible today, right? It might not be possible today, because what if they're already scheduled for a full 8-hour day and it's still going to need more time? Well, then what rooms, like, we do not have more manpower to throw it at. And you might have another cleaner or yourself who's willing to come and help finish the job. That's a great solution as well. But basically we give the client, 2 choices. One, do you want to add more time? Or do you approve the additional time? Or 2, what rooms are the lowest priority? What would you like? These are the rooms that are left. What are the highest priorities? And we will work through as much as we can in the current approved amount of time. And again, that's the beauty of charging hourly on that initial clean, because this is the reality of the situation. Sometimes you do not have enough time scheduled. So with a flat rate price, you're having a very unhappy client because you gave them a price, and that price was like guaranteed to get the job done. And now you're not getting the job done, and you don't have any more time in the schedule. You don't have, any more like availability. And now you're like, it just hourly feels better in that situation, I find, than being like, well, I told you 300, but it's actually going to be 500 or what. Like that feels like shit, where it's more like, we need 2 more man hours and this is why, and blah, blah, blah. Like, even though it's the same thing, right? Like the price may be the exact same situation, but psychologically it feels totally different to the client.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, it's really on as quick a communication as possible, and for you to explain what it is. And then for us, we do this, ideally over the phone with the client or over text or however we can get a hold of them. And then we actually follow up with an email confirmation of that conversation saying, as discussed, this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. Because we've had situations where, whether it be the spouse or whatever, things get lost in translation, or they say like, they try to basically BS and say, well, I didn't, say that or whatever. So we just paper trail it. We follow it up with an email, and then there's no question at all, basically. So does that all make sense?
Yeah. So do they respond to the email? Do they have to sign something?
No, they don't have to sign it. I don't think. They don't have to sign or approve that. It's more just like letting them know. And for us, our calls are recorded too. So if we really had to, pull it all out, like, this is what you said on the phone.
I've heard that somewhere in another podcast of yours. I'm going to write that down because I didn't. So you record, that's smart to record the calls. Yeah. Luckily, we've never, I want to say, normally a lot of our clients are super honest, trustworthy people, but I don't want to always expect that. You could say.
This is just, think of it like insurance. You know what I mean? They're all great till they're not. And so I think that one of the ways you can protect yourself is both in call recordings as well as a paper trail of documentation. And then obviously having them sign things like the client agreements ahead of time. But yeah, this is all just insurance policies to protect your ass, basically. Because yeah, they're great till they're not, and it's really, really satisfying when you pull out the, well, let me check the recording actually, and see what was said, and just make sure. In Wisconsin, it is a one-way state, meaning I believe we don't have to notify them that the call is recording. Check your state laws before you put a call recording in place, that you have to say like verbally or on your like answering thing, like, calls will be recorded, blah, 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 for quality assurance. Like that's true, but also it's because legally they have to let you know that this call is being recorded. And honestly, it's not a bad thing to let them know, because then they behave more.
Yeah. Then they know. Okay. How do cleaners know what areas to clean in a home? So I do a walkthrough of most homes. We are like slowly getting out of that and becoming more confident in the prices online. But typically I go walk through the whole home. I'm writing down all of these areas, closets that they want touched, closets that they don't want touched. So how do your cleaners know what to clean in every single home?
This is a great question, actually. So on our intake process, we assume that all rooms of the home will be cleaned. On our intake form, on our booking form, ZenMaid booking form on the website, it says, are there any areas of the home that should not be cleaned? And so then we just add those notes to the client notes in ZenMaid. And then there you go. So the cleaners know, do everything except those, because that's much easier than listing out, do all of these spaces. The assumption is do the whole home, unless otherwise stated, basically. That's just so much simpler.
Okay, gotcha. Because I know ZenMaid has like an option to where you can put how many bedrooms, bathrooms. I just put it straight in the notes how to get into the home. So are you knocking? Are you walking in? Is there a code, a key? Do they have pets? And then all of the areas. And it's a lot, but my cleaners like it because they know like what to expect in each area. However, I know that you guys don't walk through homes, and I don't think that your booking link has an option to list each and every single area in their home.
So this is another thing that we've, added to our booking form is how many levels of the home, and like what is the style of the house, as well as do they have a finished basement? Because that was a big problem for us because obviously in the north we've got basements, and so we'd go in and sight unseen, not realizing that there was a finished basement, and some of those basements literally had a whole nother kitchen, right? So that's another thing I think for you that will be really useful, and I think a lot of people don't utilize the custom statuses enough in ZenMaid.
Yeah.
We can go in and make the custom statuses. So for example, is there a finished basement? Yes, no. How to enter the home, that type of stuff. So it looks a lot better than all of the notes being like, there's just so many notes, because that can get really overwhelming and the cleaners can miss things. We like to do anything standard, any of these standard questions that you're asking the client, or any of this information that you're compiling, make a custom status. And that way you can just make it looks a lot cleaner. You know what I mean? Because then it's like listed in a different section. So that's something that we like to do. And then, I think it'll be a lot more helpful for like your cleaners. I understand if it's like, every house could have an office or whatever. So I get that, but it's more so, you have this much time approved. It's approved for 10 man hours. You're expected to get the whole home done. I know it's like, does knowing if there's an office, is that going to make it a big difference, right? Like knowing bedrooms and bathrooms is important. Knowing number of kitchens is a big deal. And that sounds crazy, I know, but there's some houses that have downstairs bars or whole other kitchens. We experience that. So that could be a question that you ask as well, just so that they have what is the most time consuming things, or the most pertinent things is there a finished basement? Is there another kitchen? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Where does the garbage go? Where's the location of the garbage bags? Where is there a toilet brush in every bathroom? For us, we've made it if there's not a toilet brush in every bathroom, we will not clean the inside of that toilet. And all of a sudden they just do it. Yeah, we got tired of cleaning or, carrying dirty toilet brushes throughout the house. It's just disgusting, right? If they can afford a house cleaner, they can afford a $5 toilet brush, and stick it next to the toilet. So, for us, that's made a big difference. So I think, utilizing the notes in a more concise manner, I think your cleaners will be all right, as long as you are covering the important things.
So are all of your notes for your houses, is it all standard? So like I just said, we have how do we get into the home, pets, things like that. It's in for every single house. Are you also able to send me an example of what your notes look? Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just read it off for the people because yes, absolutely. We literally have a template for our notes that every single client, the notes are exactly the same. And I don't mean like literally, but what will be included in the notes. So let me just pull up an appointment real quick, and I will read it off. So, okay, so for us, the work items will be, standard cleaning or like a deep cleaning, whatever, if they're going to add an oven or any of our other add-ons. So this is our standard notes template. So directions to home, and that's going to be following the GPS or any other identifying markers. So in our intake process, we ask the client, is there anything specific about finding your home? Because for us, being such a rural area, sometimes it's very difficult to find houses, and the GPS will literally like throw you completely off, or it's a dead zone or whatever. So we want to make sure that the cleaners are able to find it. And we literally are asking our clients to provide a photo of their home, like whenever possible. And we just attach it to the notes that the cleaner can visually confirm, like, this is the right house. We then have the next one, which is frequency of cleans. This is for the cleaners, that this is just like useful to them. Especially when it's like a sporadic one, like obviously if it's like biweekly or like a regular thing, that's going to show, but this is just useful for the cleaners to know like what is typical. And then special cleaning instructions. So like, for example, that could be anything. Now this is where like there's a huge variety. So for example, this particular client says the cat will likely be locked in the computer/office room as he tries to get out, and she doesn't want you guys to have to deal with that. And then in all caps, use her vacuum, ! And then she has stainless steel cleaner for appliances, no cleaning of storage room upstairs. So those are like, that's like several examples of just random stuff that's very important to this client. And then this client is a limited hour clean. And so priority list of rooms provided. So 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, small family room, dining room, kitchen, living room. And then it says, I have a 2-story home with a carpeted open staircase. Upstairs and downstairs hallways are both carpeted, front entryway with tile floor. So just like, this client's been with us for years. So just some, overarching like information about the home. But that's actually a lot of notes, for that I know that client is fairly particular, but that's a perfect example of the information that we're going to provide. So really that special cleaning instructions, that's where every single time that client says like anything, that's where it goes, of like, this is very important to me or whatever, like, or, it's very important we use her vacuum, right? Like that's unusual because typically we're using our own. So those are some good examples. And then when it comes to like the customer, custom fields, that is where things like, number of bedrooms and bathrooms and all of that stuff is going to be.
So then I wanted to go back to this real quick. So you said that the cleaners will communicate with the client regarding time if they need more time. So
if they are there, yep.
Okay. I like that because, for one, I don't really always have the time to sit there and communicate with the client, but I feel like that would cause problems with maybe miscommunication with me. I don't know. Have you not had any problems with that?
So yeah, if the cleaner is communicating that, then they immediately must let us know like what's going on, or even like preemptively saying, I think I'm going to need more time. Client is here. I believe it'll be 2 more extra hours. Going to go talk to them now. We'll update you with what happens. So just like basically empowering and teaching your cleaners like how to handle that situation. And when in doubt, just at the end of the day, you could get your process down first, meaning even if the client is home, like you are the one who is giving them the call. And then even coming up with a little printed sheet would be useful that they have, with them in their binder or whatever, of like what to do in this situation or whatever. That could be useful. And for us, like we have a lot of like, so all of our policies and stuff is like linked we use Slack now for messaging. So basically anything that would be useful, like the start and end procedures or how to handle this or all of the SDS sheets, like all of that is linked in our Slack channel so that they can access those things. So that type of situation that doesn't happen very often, that's a perfect example of giving your cleaners resources so that they know how to handle something. And honestly, it's probably going to happen so infrequently, they're not probably going to feel super comfortable the first couple times, like especially if they're younger or whatever, they're not going to feel super confident. And especially if the client may not be pleased with that information, it can be a little bit hostile sometimes. Like, told me this price. It's like, yes, we understand that, but the hard water in here is much worse than anticipated, or the buildup is much worse, or heavier buildup than expected, and this is why it's taking so long. And really like establishing like what is the priorities here. If you would like us to keep it to the budget that we established, what are the least important rooms? Because we can absolutely nip those in the bud at the second cleaning. And for us, we offer the second cleaning at half off, so it's even more like it kind of eases that pain. You know what I mean? Is if we don't get it the first time.
Yeah. So with that 50% off or half off,
Yep.
that's affordable for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the first maintenance clean, that's what it is basically, is that first maintenance clean, and it cannot be, longer than the initial clean. It can't be more. And they must, in order to get that discount, the cleaning has to be done within a month of the first, and it can't be used on property. Like all of the loopholes people have tried to use, we do not allow, because otherwise it's going to turn into another initial clean 6 months down the road. Right. And they're going to be like, well, this is, my second cleaning. It's like, no. Your first maintenance cleaning is 50% off. And so, yes, because your labor costs should be no more than like 40 to 45% of what you are charging, which how much do you pay your cleaners?
Between 17 and 20.
Yeah, you're good then. So if you're charging around $50 an hour on those maintenance cleans, then you totally can afford it. It's going to cover your labor costs and then some. And the goal is to basically incentivize them to get on a reoccurring schedule. So yeah, we have found absolutely, we've been doing, this is our offer that has been like tried and true for years. And it works really well for us. And it definitely makes people book again.
Okay. Gotcha. How many people have just booked one time?
It happens definitely fairly regularly, I would say. And let's take move outs out of it, right? Or like, that type of thing. So where they're just booking that initial clean, honestly, I would say most people book again. I'd have to like run the numbers, but some people, they just book once, or it was like for a party or something. But typically if they're only booking once, it's because it was a move out clean, rental turnover, whatever. For the most part, we're able, and like, especially because of that second cleaning incentivization, like it's like, dude, like you're getting a really cheap cleaning, like get that second one at least. And most likely they're going to drop after that second one. That is the hardest part of like, okay, let's get you on that regular maintenance. And so you kind of have to really push and do follow up. But that's why the first clean, like those first two cleans, it's like the Super Bowl. Like that's truly how I feel. Like you have to freaking nail it, because otherwise like they're going to be like, this isn't worth it. And so it's high stress for sure. And that's why like this high level of communication and just like really imparting to your cleaners, like how important it is to nail this and impress them and be friendly and all of the things that are important at every cleaning, like especially so at that first one and the first maintenance as well.
So we had an initial clean that myself and my slow cleaner did. And overall it was a good clean. However, this same day my transmission went out. My car was done. I was having a terrible day. And I know better than to clean with like real shit going on in my life because it just doesn't work. So we did it. I damaged 2 things and missed 1 area, which is insane because as the owner, I just don't do that.
You are not like me. I've broken more things than anybody in my business. Oh yeah. I'm like, don't let Stephanie have to clean because she can break everything.
Yeah. Well, you're so mean. Like I should not be the one doing that. Yeah, it was intense. I was trying to focus on the clean, but obviously I'm focusing on different things. So the client I of course handled all of those things good. I offered to fix everything, pay for everything. The client didn't seem super upset. However, she texted me a week before her next appointment and said, we're not going to be using your services. I asked why, and she said, well, she talked to some of her friends and they don't pay as much and they've never had something broken, especially on an initial clean. Fair enough. I mean, how do I tell them, well, we have quality, and how do I sell the business when their first clean was shit, pretty much?
So if you want them, I would be like, basically when we fuck up, we have to make the solution to the fuck up so good that it actually turns them into like a raving fan. And this is like what Alex Hormozy says about this of like we need to erase that negative connotation. So listen, let me come in and prove to you with a free cleaning how good we are. You need to change her mind. That's the only way to do it. And like she's a skeptic right now. How do we turn a proven skeptic, because it did screw up? I mean, it's just, I know, like, this is sometimes what happens, we break stuff, and well, screw her friends. All right. Like, it's going to happen to them. So, but so I would literally be like over the top. Like, I want to prove to you, like, we are a quality cleaning service. I am so sorry about that. That is not the quality that you can expect from us. Having a klutzy day, and I'm so sorry about that. Let me do a free cleaning for you. Like, what would work for your schedule? We'll make it happen. And literally just like dazzle her. Do not break anything, obviously, in that site. I would just walk out. Like, if you do break something at that, just don't even go to a new town, start a new name.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. That's what I would do if you want this client, basically. And this could be your ego speaking too. Like, you're just butthurt about it, and that's totally fair. Like, do you want this client that badly? Or do you chalk it up, and obviously the word of mouth too, like, she's talking to her friends. So right there, to me, that's worth it to do this, because it's like that bad word of mouth is getting out. She's talking to all of her friends who use cleaning services, and they're saying this. So if you come back, give her a free cleaning, absolutely, dazzle the pants off of her, guess what she's going to say to all of her friends, right? So to me, absolutely worth it. That's what I would do.
Well, I already responded. This was like a week ago. So should I still say, hey?
I would say this is still on my mind, and I just really want to make this more than right. And it's not like, did you break grandma's urn? Like, what'd you break?
Oh, so one of them, we have dusters, and it scraped the wall. There was like a sharp piece sticking out. It scraped the wall. However, my partner owns a painting company, so that was an easy fix. She ended up doing it. And then there was she has an interior designer who comes and does her house. So she just had like little decorations. This one was I was a little skeptical because it fell over on its own, is what I would say. It was the easiest and it broke, and it should not have broke. So she said that they don't think that you can buy it anymore. However, I had of course offered to find something close to it. So it wasn't the worst things. No.
No. So I think I would follow up again and be like, look, this is still on my mind, and I really want to make this right and show you, like, quality is so important to me. Let me do this, and she may still turn you down, but the offer is on the table, and you did as right as you can do in that situation. Yeah. Kind of sounds like she's being a princess, but especially if it was like, I just think, like, we're touching that. Like, I get it. Like, the customer doesn't care, and it's not their problem, but accidents do happen. We break things at least every other week, like a cleaner's breaking. Yeah. At this point, with our level of, and it's whatever, picture frames that are stuck on walls with spit and a prayer, like, you look at them and they fall off, or blinds. Like, there's a reason we don't do like the cheap blinds, because they break as soon as you touch them. And so we just tell them, like, it'd be cheaper for them to literally replace those cheap, like, crackly metal blinds than us cleaning them.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You won't even touch them. Like.
Yeah, for sure. Those are a no-go. So, yeah, I need to text Miss Client, because, they probably were talking bad about us.
Yes. So this is a reputation hit that you can literally turn into like a wow moment. So I would do your darndest to do so. And especially like if you can go personally do the clean, although maybe you're the problem in this particular house. But, if you can go successfully complete a clean there and not break something, and it's like, just make sure that you could eat off the floor afterwards, like, you could really impress them.
Gotcha, for sure. So where do you have, because you said you have something for your clients to read, your client guidelines, but you have a lot of questions for them. Where does all of that come about? So entry to the home, things like that.
Yeah. So basically, we provide the estimate over email. They say, yes, we want you. The next follow-up email, and I think I might have sent, I can send you this email template though too. You're going to remind me, like, send me an email and remind me of all these things, because I'm going to forget all of them, because this is not our typical meeting that's like recorded in the same way.
Yeah.
But so that follow-up email basically says, great, your spot will be, held for the next 5 days, but it is not confirmed until you do the following things. And then we list out our, basically demands in order for them to actually like have that spot and confirm it. And that's going to have credit card on file. It's going to have the down payment paid. It's going to be signing the client guidelines that has the checklist attached as well, explaining our scope of work. They need to provide any and then all of that information, like how do we access the home? Can we have your Wi-Fi password if you have bad reception for cleaner safety and communication? Where are the garbage bags? Where are there toilet brushes in every single bathroom? And how do you like to be communicated? Do you prefer email, text, or call? So we literally like ask all of these things in that follow-up email, and they get it back to us. We add it all to their notes in ZenMaid. We charge the card, do all of the things, bing, bang, boom, and now they are actually confirmed. And that giving them that timeline, it creates a sense of urgency, and we will send them a reminder, like, hey, as a reminder, like, on day 4 or whatever day it is, like you need to get these things done. And then, so this takes organization on your part. The only way you can have the system actually work is like being disciplined on staying organized. This is so important, this intake process, because otherwise you're going to create chaos and pandemonium for yourself or for your cleaners. So that's why like we are like psychotic. Like this is what we use ClickUp for, is basically like managing our tasks. You can do this in your email, like your whatever calendar you use, like if you use Gmail or whatever, Outlook, like just every single day, like just have a reoccurring reminder pop up that says like check on XYZ's intake or whatever. And you can literally just add notes on those days of like who you're waiting for, just to like stay on track. Like, again, that's like a super simple, quick and dirty way to do that. Or if you have a big calendar on your desk, like write it that way, or however you want to do it, that's going to hold you to like a level of organization. Again, like we're using a task management software for that. And some CRMs definitely allow it. What you could also do, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like just do a task in ZenMaid or a note in ZenMaid. So yeah, a task that's, I call them notes, but the pink things at the top of ZenMaid, what I would do is like make yourself, so say you send out that stuff on a Monday, right? And so you want it by Friday, just add yourself a note on Friday that says, check, Sarah's intake process, like, and to confirm and send, literally just use it as like a, simple note thing. Cause there's not going to be that many. And so that could be a really cause you're already in ZenMaid every day. You could use it that way.
I haven't used the tasks or the notes. I've just recently learned about them.
Yeah. We use them for like all sorts of stuff of, just so that we are remembering like simple things or,
Really? Like what? Like for scheduling?
Yeah. Looking like manager meeting 9:30, like Emma, 4 to 6 hour shift only, April off, like people off, Crystal in-person interviews, like of just like, it's kind of like, or like Katie, 10 a.m. walkthrough, like these are the ones I'm looking at right now. Or, McKenna, back to Black River Falls by whatever time, like things basically so that when we're scheduling, like kind of the weird things that we need to know or whatever, but also from like an office management perspective, like it helps us too. And like, it's like, why don't you use your calendar? Well, we're in ZenMaid all the time. Like this is, our calendar. So it just is really helpful. And then you can see those tasks on your app too. Like when you go to the dashboard in your app, it'll show you the tasks to do. So if you're on the go and you're like, shit, I'm driving, like, let me make some phone calls or whatever you want to do, safely, hands-free, then you can do so. And that would be helpful. So literally, yeah, if you're on like the desktop, just go to actions and say create task. And then you can do it that way and it'll pop up for you. But yeah, we use tasks like every single day.
That's so the cleaners availability, is that not what that's for? Well, for like if they're off a certain day, do you do the cleaners availability that's new?
Yeah, the new availability, we definitely add it there. Basically, we like to also add ourselves like a note, especially if it's like a weird off or like what I'm talking about of like needs to be back by a certain time. But if it's like a reoccurring off, then we won't leave ourselves a note typically. It just depends. But yeah, the availability has been very helpful of you can just add it there and then you can visually see who is available and who's not. It just depends kind of what view you like too. Like, so, calendar view versus whatever, dispatch or whatever. So it just depends. We just like to really double reiterate so we don't forget things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's needed. Another thing that I've learned about Zen Maid.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'll really help.
A year later.
It's like a sticky note. That's how I see it, you know?
Yeah, yep. Super great.
This has been great. I'm hoping that everybody finds this useful, guys. Definitely give Zalia some love in the comments because she is very, very brave to come on here and, share all of this.
Well,
I really appreciate you doing this for sure.
I have been looking forward to this. I love calls with you. They make my whole week literally. So
anybody listening, you're interested in doing this and you'd be willing to do a podcast episode, let's learn from each other. I think this is great. And, I'm learning too of even that example of, that policy of I might have a gap in that. I'm so you yes, I love talking to you too, because you have really thoughtful questions and very specific questions. So that is fantastic. But yes, book a call with me and we will keep going. But thank you so much. And guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe, give Zalia some love in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Filthy Rich Cleaners Podcast. Bye-bye.